All right, so I figured I would do an example for you with the a value being a fraction and negative, just to help you on your homework this weekend. So let's look at this f of x equal to -1/2 times the absolute value of x plus 1 minus 2. This is the last example in the note sheet that I gave you in class today. So if we're comparing this to our standard form, we can see that the a value here is -1/2. Our h value, again, think about this as being x minus a -1. So that's going to make our h value -1, and then our k value is going to be a -2. So I'm going to set up the parent table of values with our x values of -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, our y values 2, 1, 0, 1, and 2. And then I'm going to start with my transformation. So we said the h transforms the x. So since the h is negative, I'm going to be subtracting that from the x value. So -2 minus 1 is going to give me a -3. -1 minus 1 will give me a -2. 0 minus 1, -1. 1 minus 1 will give me a 0. And then 2 minus 1 will give me a 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and transform the y's. So we said that the a gets applied first by multiplying, and then the k will get applied second, and this time we'll subtract since it's negative. So I'm going to do -1/2 times my y values. And I'm not going to write this out, but just so you can kind of see what I'm doing here, I'm going to take -1/2 times my first y value of 2. So it's going to give me a -1. -1/2 times my second y value of 1 gives me -1/2. -1/2 times 0 will give me 0. -1/2 times 1 will give me a -1/2. And then -1/2 times my last y value of 2 is going to give me a -1. And then I'm going to go ahead and take those values that I just got by multiplying by -1/2, and then I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 from them. So -1 minus 2 will give me a -3. -1/2 minus 2 will give me a -2.5. If you want to write that as fraction or decimal, I really don't care either way. 0 minus 2 is -2. -1/2 minus 2 is -2.5. And then -1 minus 2 will give me a -3. So then our ordered pairs are going to come from the x column and our final y column. So my first ordered pair would be -3, -3. My second ordered pair would be -2, -2.5, -1, -2, 0, -2.5, and then 1, -3. So I'm going to go ahead and graph those on my coordinate plane. So your transform graph should look something like this. And again, don't forget the arrows on your branches. And then our vertex ends up being at -1, -2, which we were saying in class that is the h comma the k value. This time my graph is opening down, which we kind of talked about at the end of class. That has to do with the a value being negative. Our graph shifted to the left, and that's because our h value was -1. Our graph shifted down, and that's because the k value is -2. And it looks like, and it was kind of a little bit hard to tell, but our graph is actually wider than the parent function. And we said that when the wider width happens, that means that there's actually a vertical shrink. And we said that this actually has to do with the a value. And in this case, it's because our a value is, I know that it's negative, but again, the negative only has to do with the reflection. But since the a value is a value that's between 0 and 1, or a fraction between 0 and 1, that's what makes this graph wider than the parent graph. So our slope of our left branch would be +1/2, and our slope of our right branch would be -1/2. And this slope of the right branch should always be your a value. And the slope of the right branch is a little bit different than the ones that we talked about in class. The slope of the right branch is negative. Before, our slope of our right branch was positive. Like I said, it's going to depend on which way your graph is facing. If your graph is facing down, your slope of your right branch is going to be negative. If your graph is facing up, the slope of your right branch is going to be positive. So here, our domain would be -infinity to +infinity, and our range would be, if we're reading from the bottom up, so the graph is going to start at -infinity, and we're going to stop at -2. So negative infinity to +2, and the 2 is included since we do have a closed dot here. So I hope that helps with the graphing example. Let me know if you have any more questions.